All right. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Inner Join, the show where we dive deep into the world of data governance and data management. I'm your host, Shinji Kim, the founder of SelectStar. SelectStar is a modern data governance platform providing an automated data catalog, lineage, and business glossary for enterprises. So today, I am very excited to have Piotr Czarnas, the
Yes.
founder of DQOps, who's joining us from Warsaw, Poland. We are going to dive deep into his experience and expertise in data quality. So if you have any questions, thoughts about data quality, please comment on the chat. And Piotr, welcome to Inner Join.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm Piotr Czarnas. I'm the founder of DQOps. You might have seen some of my posts on LinkedIn because I'm trying to promote data quality as much as I can. It's an open source solution that we and my team, we created it based on our former experience on building a closed source data quality platform. So it's our second generation solution, and I hope we can discuss some use cases, discuss how to approach data quality, what's the long-term approach to ensuring quality, work with different teams, data engineering teams, data stewardship teams, data operations teams, because what is unique about data quality, if it's applied correctly, it should support all the data stakeholders, all the people who will work with data and will need to ensure data quality even on year 1, year 2, year 3. So it's a long-term approach, and that's what I wanted to also discuss. So thank you again, Shinji, for invitation.
No problem. I found your content on LinkedIn to be very visual and also very concrete, which I found to be really helpful. So wanting to, and this is a question that I usually start with every guest, tell us a little bit more about how you got into data and how you got here with data quality.
Actually, it's a long story because I have about 25 years of experience working in IT. First, I started in some startup. Then I took a job and I worked at Roche, a big pharma company. I was the first employee in Poland and then that department has grown to 400 employees in Poland and another 1,000 externals working here. So growing with the team, I moved into a management position. I was managing a team of about 120 people. And that was a team actually of both developers working mainly in Microsoft technologies, data engineers setting up data warehouses and data lakes, and also a team of typical testers, SQA specialists. So that gave me a good overview from different perspectives, from the top perspective of software developers who go into details, through data engineering just to handle data and use platforms, and even testing teams that only focus on SQA and defining test cases and managing the test cases. So that was my first experience. Later on, I also, I think the moment when I decided to go into data was a very specific situation when my team was maintaining an application. It was a database. It didn't even have that many records. It was just 6 million rows. But the data model in this database was a little strange because it was a graph database implemented inside SQL Server. So you can just imagine it's like tables like nodes, edges, and attributes. And even the definition of the data was, and the types of entities in that database were defined as graphs inside that database. It was so unperformant that even when the company asked help from Microsoft, and they assigned one of the authors of SQL Server to come for 2 months and sit with the team and optimize the queries, still the queries were taking about 40 seconds to run on this data model. So that was a moment when I said, okay, but this is a graph and it's not so big. I run a query, I just summarize the size of the fields, and it's not so big. So I created actually as a proof of concept a custom graph database. Even it took me about 2 months as a proof of concept, just using some spare time, because I was so interested in this concept, how to make it run faster, that I have built a custom graph database, which was able to store the whole database in just one file that was 1 gigabyte. It could the whole database was managed in memory, and the application, the whole database was loading the database into memory in just 3 to 5 seconds on a laptop. And then any query would be executed in less than 3 milliseconds. Even the worst query that would traverse the whole graph, look into every node, apply some calculations, will still execute in 3 milliseconds on a laptop. So that was my first moment when I said, okay, let's move more into data than software engineering. And in the meantime, I even created a data virtualization solution, which was Querona. And that was my first startup that I set up, which this was a solution that was simulating SQL Server and storing the data in Spark. So for some customers, we were able to decrease the cost of buying professional databases pretty significantly, because they would just buy an instance of Querona and have a Spark behind, so they didn't need to load any data. They could just connect data sources, tell the platform to replicate it. You could connect many BI tools through this platform because it was simulating SQL Server. You could run SQL Server queries, just take Power BI, use the connector to SQL Server and connect to it. And it would convert all the queries from SQL Server, from Transact SQL used in SQL Server to Oracle TSQL or Spark SQL. That was an interesting idea. And then the question is probably also how I moved into data quality. Because when the COVID hit, we had some cash flow issues. I needed to look for some extra activities, and I was invited by Procter & Gamble to design their custom-built data quality platform for their marketing department. And Procter & Gamble is the world's biggest advertiser. So nobody spends more on marketing, and they were also collecting a lot of information from external marketing agencies or any data source that they can use to plan and forecast marketing activities. So we created a platform that was working on all 3 clouds, because the data was in AWS, Azure, GCP. And what is interesting, we are actually with my team working on this platform for over 4 years across all the stages. So it's when we started, we just connected them to data. We connected data quality checks to data pipelines, like you can see now. with this shift left approach that many data engineering teams do. They just try to use data contracts or implement checks directly in the pipeline. Then we engaged with a lot of data stewards and data owners. So they were not very technical, but they just were providing us a lot of requirements. A few days ago, I published a LinkedIn article showing a template for data quality requirements. And in fact, we are collecting requirements from those data asset owners in a very similar way. So we are just gathering requirements, connecting data quality checks, assessing them, and coming back with some findings, what issues we found, and some propositions whether this check should be validated or not. And once we collected most of the checks, and then we moved into an operational phase when we just operated this platform as a data observability solution, just to react to new anomalies or issues and reviewing them.
Got it. Very interesting. So all your knowledge you're sharing and also what you're putting in as the open source platform in DQOps is really the result of your 4 years working with all the data teams in the past at PNG, interviewing and working with each of these stakeholders, a lot of the questions that putting into a framework. That's amazing.
Yes, the way how we worked across teams was very repeatable because we were just connecting the platform to data sources, importing metadata, and then we are asking data asset owners about their problems that they have faced or what they want to analyze or to provide us a list of critical data elements. Then we are just prioritizing the list of tables to see which tables are the most important and which issues problems are the most important. And we are following this order, working in an agile way. So every week or every 2 weeks for every iteration, we're just picking the tables with the highest priority. For that, we created a data quality data warehouse, and we had special dashboards to track the priority and the number of data quality issues detected for each table. And we are just sorting it first by priority, how important it is, and then by the number of issues that we found.
Yeah.
So that was so this process actually I described in an ebook that probably many people have already, even joining us, have downloaded from a DQOps website. Because after a while, we just knew that this is a process that we just follow. We are just repeating it. So I finally painted it as a huge image, showing all those steps from moving from gathering requirements, setting up, doing this initial data quality assessment and fixing, and moving into this operational phase. And you just monitor new issues and react to it. And it actually worked pretty well. What we did, analyzing data quality with KPIs. I think that many teams are afraid of KPIs because that's something, to calculate, to measure us. But how we did it, it's just calculating the number of issues, the number of checks that failed. So if we run a check every day and it failed just once, then the KPI for this month will be like if it ran 29 times correctly and 1 time incorrectly, there was a failure, then the KPI will be around 97%.
Okay. So KPI for each data asset is only based on the monitors that have failed during a month of time.
Yes, right? When that was a very interesting observation that when we follow this process and we were asking teams to provide us requirements, and we are just connecting checks the way that we are asked to. And we were running the data quality checks for the first time to do the assessment. After a while, I noticed that the KPI level for the first assessment was between 40 and 45%.
Mm-hmm.
So you can
Sounds
imagine
low.
that on the other side, 55 to 60% of data quality requirements failed.
Mm.
So the requirements were mostly desires about data quality and not requirements.
Got it. Very interesting. I think this is a topic we should kind of get into, because when somebody says, how do I measure data quality? There are, I'm sure, I mean, and you have described in your posts, what are the aspect and metrics you need to add, but it can be, it doesn't have to be same requirements for every data asset.
No. So that's important to prioritize them. Because if you have a table that has a high priority, because it's important, it's used, it's like a transactional table, and you need to ensure its quality, because this table is used maybe for some regulatory reporting, then you have to analyze every column. But there are some tables that if you just detect anomalies, that's all that you need.
Mm-hmm. So I guess like overall, like we are quite aware, like, so the answer is always depends. And I guess it's up to the data stewards to make sure that what it would be important to put into checks on the data quality. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, because you need to ask the users what they expect. Maybe they know about some issues that were already noticed by users. So today I published a post on LinkedIn about two types of data quality measures. One are objective measures, something that we can automate and measure with data quality checks and just count the checks that passed. That's the KPI. And there are also subjective measures. You just ask people, do you like this data? Do you think it's good quality? Have you ever seen any problems? Did it cause you any problems, like it took you too long to find the correct information? Or you found a table, but it was actually a copy that was outdated. It was not the master table that you were looking for. So that's a lot of areas in data quality that are just perceived data quality, what people believe.
Right. That I actually think is not a data quality issue. It's a data discovery issue, because they landed on a wrong table than what they were supposed to, which I do, sometimes do come across as when somebody that is not in the data team is trying to access data, they can perceive it as data quality because it's not organized or managed.
Just for them, and they will call it data quality. They will complain about data quality. The word data quality will, that we have poor data quality, will reach the organization and other people.
Right. So let's say I'm an organization and we are trying to improve our overall data quality. We don't have any measures today. Where would you recommend people to start?
Well, I would recommend just to identify the critical data assets, the most important tables. So they will not, so nobody will waste time on analyzing tables that do not matter. Ask people if they already know about some issues. So they already had some problems. And then you have to profile this data. So in DQOps, we actually implemented it as a two-step process. First step is to do like typical profiling. So just collect statistics and see what are the typical values, what is the range of values, what is like if there is a date column, what's the earliest date, what's the latest date.
Yeah.
But that only gives you some understanding. If there is a documentation of the data source, then the documentation will be probably much better than what you will see in the by running queries and looking at the values, especially like foreign keys or just IDs that reference other tables will tell you nothing about the structure of the data.
Yeah.
And then it's the next step should be actually trying to evaluate this data and testing it again for some requirements. So what we in DQOps do, we added a rule mining engine. So a solution, and it's provided in open source version that will use the sample data and will try to configure checks that will find some issues. So the most common probably issue and the easiest to find, if you have a category column and there are 5 values that you expect, it's like a status: open, closed, delayed, cancelled. But in the data, there is also a few more statuses that are just incorrect labels. Maybe closed with uppercase, which can happen in databases when we don't have constraints, especially if some teams often now hear about big data platforms and they try to use Spark or BigQuery or Databricks directly as an OLTP database without any constraints.
Yeah.
So this type of information can happen. And out of 1 million rows, there will be just 3 rows with the label closed, but with uppercase, which is a wrong value. So if we just see which values are not have a very small representation in the data set, they are probably data quality issues.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's the simplest way, just to find it, show the issues to the business sponsors, and discuss whether they are issues or not.
Okay. This actually brings me to some of the questions that's been now asked. We have 2 questions on our comments that I want to bring up. Now you mentioned about these kind of like anomalies of the data values. I think this might be an interesting segue into data contracts. So we do have one question about that from Rejoice that she would like to learn a little bit more about managing data quality by and using data contracts.
Okay, so that's an interesting question, because now we can see this this interest in this shift left approach. So test as early as possible. That means testing inside data pipelines. What I see here, and what is quite important, if we run data quality checks using some Python libraries or calling a data quality platform to run checks on the data, like in the landing zone before the data is loaded to the cleansing zone, or maybe if we use the Matillion architecture when we have the data in the bronze layer and we want to move it and transform it to the silver layer. It's attempting to analyze the data before it's moved. So that's the idea of data contracts. Just define the hard requirements for data quality that if they are validated, then we can assume that the data is corrupted and it will generate data quality issues downstream. And if we connect, if we monitor data, the validity of data through data contracts, it's usually done as a step inside a data pipeline workflow. For example, a step in Airflow. And I think we can already see many operators and actions available for Airflow, just to call some data quality libraries. So if that happens, and if we just use a library, then the error that is reported will be reported to the orchestrator platform like Airflow logs. So properly executed, a data contract will stop pipeline. And recently I was reviewing the many articles or even books about data contracts and how far data contracts usually go into data quality. So how many types of checks are usually validated by data contracts? And the approach, and it's a good approach, is just to ensure that data contracts validates the schema. Because if the data comes and it doesn't meet the schema that is agreed, like there is an extra column, or the column contains text and it should contain numbers.
Right.
Then you know that this data will corrupt, either break this pipeline, or even if you load it to the downstream table in the silver layer, then it will corrupt something else. So the first step is to validate the schema. Second is to validate values that you are absolutely sure that they are invalid, like values out of range. If there is an age column, you don't expect to have ages lower than maybe 18. If you expect people who are of age, and not more than 100. Or if you receive raw data, and the column should contain dates in an ISO format, year dash month dash day, because that's how it will be parsed later, to avoid mismatches and treating months and days in the reverse way. If somebody forgets to set up the correct local language settings and parse it with English or American English date format. So those are some sort of issues that could be validated by a data contract, but there is one risk. I mentioned about this age. What if this data comes from end users, and there is just one row with an age invalid? It doesn't mean that we should throw away 1,000 rows that were entered on that day, because there is just one row when somebody just put 7 instead of at least 18. It's not an issue that will corrupt the data pipeline. It's just a problem that will affect maybe dashboards, maybe it will affect analytics. But usually, you should just monitor how many issues like that you have. So data pipelines should actually have a separation, because you cannot validate this kind of issues, which are business issues, and the data is still usable. It's not corrupting the pipeline. It should still pass. So that's why there is also a place for data stewardship and having data quality checks that are more business checks, like this age, defined after the pipeline. And not even executed as part of pipeline, because if you execute it as part of the pipeline, your goal is to stop the pipeline. But if anyway this age that is too low will be loaded, that it doesn't matter when you analyze it, because anyway you have to wait one day for the data steward to come and review it.
So to summarize, like, the business rules can be passed through, and it will be up to the analyst to decide whether that is going to be a valid data that they're going to use for the analysis or not. But for data contract perspective, for data quality, this is a technical data quality, and hence the two main parts you want to check is first the schema validation, and then the second is the values
Yes, that's
So,
not values.
and sorry, say it again.
Yes, you have to check all the hard requirements that you
Yeah, hard
are
requirements.
absolutely sure that if this value is present, it will corrupt something.
Right. And it has to go into the pipeline implementation.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting aspect, because one of the things that we do at SelectStar is to give you a comment on your PR for your data pipelines if it has downstream effect because you're about to change your schema. Like if you're updating a column name or adding a new column, that would completely change the schema.
Yes,
like will give you an understanding of, hey, this might break these other downstream pipelines.
exactly. That's a kind of a data contract evaluated before even something was executed.
Yeah, I think that is important, so that it's not something that happens afterwards that it breaks. It's something that needs to be considered while the changes or updates gets made.
Yes, so that's a pre-validation even before data contract is evaluated. It's actually there is even a concept with data contract validation. You can use. I think there is a platform. I forgot the name. They are simulating data storage like S3, and they provide an approach to commit changes. So you can just load the data like a
Just test it out how it's going to look like once you make the changes.
Yes. So it's actually possible to load the data in a way that it's not yet committed, run checks and data contracts on top of that, and just discard the changes if the data is if the data contract is violated.
Yeah, makes sense. Very interesting. We do have another question from Lead. I do not have it on the screen, but I can read it to you. So he's asked, how much data quality is important in testing lifecycle? And why is it not as popular as normal quality assurance fields?
It's a hard question because I think it's you should test the data as long as somebody is complaining about data quality issues or problems. So, like, if there is a problem with, if you see that there is that the perceived data quality is low, so people are complaining, they see mismatches, they see some problems, then you should test it. And well, personally, I'm a big fan of testing. That's why I moved into this area. When I was building my previous platforms, I was the person who has written the most number of unit tests for the platforms that I created. So that's why for me it's also a little strange why people are not testing, because personally I wrote more than 35,000 unit tests.
That's a lot.
Handwritten. Like I was a bit crazy about that, and that's the challenge that not everybody is doing it. So what we actually did in one project, if you have a complaint about some perceived data quality issue with a table, then take this table, profile it just to understand it, and you need to show the issues to the end users just to convince them that they need data quality. One option, if you can identify some instant issues through data profiling, like a value that is very, well, there are some maybe outliers, strange values, dates in the future, then you have obvious issues that you can share with the data owner and tell them, but this is the data that you have, we will need to fix it. If you want to go beyond that, and there are still issues, there is one more interesting approach. That's data reconciliation. Just find a different data asset, a different table that is a source of truth. So maybe you have a fact table in a data warehouse, and there are some problems with the data warehouse. Some numbers do not add up. Then ask maybe the financial department, maybe they can extract a report from SAP. Those reports will be probably at different aggregation levels. So you will maybe get like a total revenue per business unit or product line per day. And it should match the aggregated values in that fact table. So you just do data reconciliation. If something does not match, then you go and try to configure more checks. Because now you have a proof that the values don't match. There is a proof. The numbers in SAP do not match what you have in the data warehouse. It's a hard proof. Now you have to connect and configure more checks until you find out why there is a problem. Is it the data missing? Is it the data duplicated? And it just takes time to figure out where the problem could be present. When the issue is fixed, then the biggest value comes with data observability to let those checks run every day, or maybe once a month. It does enough. But the next time when this data does not match, you will know why.
Got it. So the whole point of this and the reason why like the importance of data quality gets measured is really based on the business value and
Yes.
how it gets used in the business.
Exactly, because if the perceived quality is low, people do not trust the data. They have seen just some discrepancy in the data.
Yeah. And I think the big other part about this is that how important is that data? How and like you mentioned that when someone starts with data quality, they have to start with the most critical data of the company. And I think that's really an important piece that a lot of people forget about.
Yes.
Right?
Because you should focus on data that matters.
Yeah. So how do you recommend folks to prioritize which are the data that matters? Is it just from talking to stakeholders, understanding just all the...
Yes, it's mostly about talking about stakeholders. Maybe a month ago, I had a post on LinkedIn with some proposals, and there were some conversations below that post. Because what we started with at one project and then we followed it in the following projects was to apply priorities. Just ask people, okay, let's assume we cannot spend that much time and budget on this data quality project. Let's split the list of tables into 4 groups, because maybe we will not have enough time to analyze the tables in the group number 4. But for sure, we should start working on the tables with priority number 1. And what are your priority number 1 tables? Usually those were tables with some transactions, with reference data. In the second stage, the second priority were some tables that were either copies of other data or just regular dimension tables. Important dictionaries. The third stage was just dictionaries, whatever they have. And the last level were usually, if somebody of course wants to analyze almost all tables that are in active use. The last priority were mostly a table with some logs or just activity logs, something that is just used as a reference or an audit trail. So that's the idea.
Yeah, one of the things that we recommend our customers to look at is our popularity score. So once you start tracking, and if you can track usage of tables.
Mhm.
How often is this queried? How many unique queries or unique users are querying this table? That is like one indication that gives you the importance. And if you also look at the downstream lineage, how many other model or dashboards are dependent on this table? I think that trickles down to like your most most dependent, most important tables. And it feels like a lot of hence this data quality checks will have to leave in and is primarily applied to your kind of like a bronze level tables.
Exactly. So it's something like that we can even think about connecting data catalogs and data quality platforms. For the last, I think, 2 years, many data catalog vendors added data quality tabs just to accept data quality scores, like the data quality KPIs that we measured at different data quality dimensions, like completeness, consistency, accuracy, and just to push it to the data catalog at the data source level, at the table level, or even column level. So that's one stage when it works. And there is also a need to use the information from the catalog back in the data quality, especially like prioritizing the effort by tables that are actually in use. So that's a good idea. There is also an interesting area to link the platforms and not only upload the scores, but also maintain some sort of documentation. So if there is a way, and every data catalog has text fields that support some sort of rich text that could be updated by API, then it's also an interesting area to generate some more description from extracted from the data quality platform, like the description of data quality dimensions that are monitored on this table and how many checks are actually active. We have done that for one customer. It was a pretty long project because we are doing it for the first time. And there was a lot of work with mapping between our data quality platform and the data catalog, because there were a lot of mismatches, because the tables that we were actually focusing on with data quality were mostly landing zone tables. But the tables loaded to the data catalog were mostly the final tables that were expected to be used by end users. So the data catalog didn't have the whole lineage. It didn't have the row tables that we're analyzing. But yet it was an interesting achievement, because for every table, if you click on it, the description field would contain up-to-date information with link backs to the data quality platform about the recent errors.
Yep.
That's an approach.
Actually, that's a interesting point, because we've also recently implemented our data quality tab in Select Star Data Catalog. And one thing that we noticed and our customers have asked for was exactly that, being able to see the data quality of upstream tables.
Yes.
And so you can get data quality information of the table, or even at the dashboard level, if any of the upstream tables have any quality issues, to be able to see it in the same tab. So that upstream checking, I think, is actually becoming more important between the integration of catalog and data quality tools.
Yeah, so that's all. I'm also observing this trend, that knowing what is affected and where does the error come from is actually becoming now the essence of data quality. The challenge is actually with building a decent data lineage tree. especially across data sources.
Yep.
And I can see that, well, it's
yeah,
challenging.
It's not easy, but yeah, it's not easy, but it's a very useful thing to have when you have a cross-platform data lineage.
Yes, because that's I think with a cross-platform data lineage, we can actually know that there is a source system, an OLTP database that is owned by the organization, so they can make changes in that system. But actually, there is a script that is just dumping the data into a CSV file, which is uploaded to the data lake. And the data lineage is hidden in some shell scripts that are executed according to a cron schedule. It's hard to figure out where does the data come from. So that's it.
Yeah,
Do we have any more questions? Let's ask for more questions.
Not on LinkedIn, but we're accepting more questions. I do have another topic I want to get into. We talked a lot about detecting data quality issues, measuring data quality. I want to talk a little bit about triaging and getting data quality issues fixed. What should be the general process? B, when you detect that there is a data quality issue?
Well, the organization must set up first this triangle step. So the operational team should be notified about new issues, because most of them are actually either anomalies that are not so important, or some of them could be false positives. Let's say that somebody configured that the price of the product should be in the range of $10 to $1,000. But the company is growing, is adding new products for the higher market. And now the most expensive product costs $3,000. And that's fine. So we don't want to bother data stewards and data owners with those problems. First, it should be reviewed by data operations teams. And if it's approved, then usually it requires some work. So all the teams that the data engineering teams that are able to do it, because they have the tools, the knowledge, access rights, are usually working in this project mode. So they are using Jira, they assign tasks in iterations, and this is actually a new task. Fix the pipeline or make some changes, or do some transformation and fix this data on the fly. So they must be engaged. At best, this is just a problem that could be fixed in the data pipeline by either applying some transformation or even doing some lookups. So if there is a value missing, let's just make a query to another table containing the original information. So if we don't have the address of the customer, let's look up the customer's table to fill all the blanks. So that's the best way, is just to automate it. But if there is no such option, then the best that we can do is roll our sleeves and move and fix the data. So
yeah,
but it only works if we own the data. If it's like if we there is a table that is our master data source, and we can change it. We can run update statements on it.
Yeah, in some cases, because like a lot of pipelines are chained, you do have to like go back and then reprocess the rest of the downstream chain, and I think this becomes quite painful, and hence more important to have something like data contracts in place and things like that, so that you can just kind of stop the pipeline right there and then.
Because that's also an option. If you already see problems and you know that you cannot load this data, then stop the pipeline. Maybe the data will be delayed by 2-3 days. but somebody will review the original data, and maybe it's just a simple fix. Maybe it's really a technical problem. Maybe there was a problem with disk space, and the data, when it was reloaded, couldn't be loaded fully, and a few partitions were just lost. It could also happen. I have probably never seen a Hadoop cluster that didn't have any failed nodes due to some hard disk failures. You were in the past, you were even thinking about running data quality checks just for each partition, using a word query to give the partition key. Those were daily partitions, because there were always 1 or 2 days in some huge tables where the partitions were corrupted. HDFS actually had some problems due to some servers down.
Tell us a little bit more about where you saw and examples of the successful data quality implementations in organization. What does that ideal state look like?
Well, the ideal state would be when users don't complain about data quality anymore, so they don't see any problems, any issues, and whatever problems are detected are only anomalies that are of little importance. So the data flow is stable. There are no issues with schema changes. And even if there are schema changes, they are already announced. So the person responsible for data quality, even if they see an issue that a schema change was detected, they already know that they expect it, because they were told we are changing the schema. They even were a part of this review process to say, okay, we will change this, we'll split this full name field into first name and last name. So that's the perfect situation, that the only problems that are seen are just anomalies.
Not
the problems that will affect any users or will require fixing.
Because data pipelines do change, and this change management and communication prior to the pipeline changing is hence so important. And tracking the lineage and who the downstream owners are, if somebody else is managing that pipeline, having them to be aware of upcoming changes so that they can migrate or change accordingly, I think are all very, very important in order to make the data quality, the perceived data quality, to be continued to be good, right? Because that has nothing to do with the actual data.
Exactly. So that would be a perfect situation. Whatever you see are only anomalies or things that you expect to see.
So Piotr, we've talked a lot about things that you've worked on. What are some of the things that you are excited about in terms of what's on the horizon for the future of DQOps and data quality in the industry today?
I think more integration with catalogs, more advanced data lineage, just to have a better view of the upstream and downstream tables that could be or are affected. And I wish that there will be more teams who just start data quality at the data engineering phase, which we did, and just learn that that to actually achieve this high level of perceived data quality is to engage business users and configure data quality checks for them. So we can also see some organizations having both business data stewards, providing requirements, but they don't go into the technical details, and technical teams. Data quality engineers, just imagine that in software development, 40% of the project budget goes into software quality assurance, into testers. And we don't see that much budget spent on data quality in every data engineering project.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
what testers do, because they talk to business users, data stakeholders, they collect requirements and they test them. So we have still this lack of engaging data stewards and business owners, and maybe with this interest in data products, in data ownership, there will be more functions in the business of people who understand the structure of the data, but know exactly how this data is used and how it can be used to generate value.
So you believe that there should be more monitors or ways to check data quality, but on the business logic side?
Not only ways, more interest in the on the so more data asset owners and data platform owners who can provide some feedback.
Got it. Okay.
Because we are now, I think, making so many pipelines and many data teams, when they just finish one platform, they decide, okay, this is a wrong cloud, let's move to Google Cloud or let's move to AWS. And they just repeat the same activities before they even finished doing a full testing.
Right.
So that's in data engineering, either the data engineering teams are understaffed, so they don't have time to spend time on to separate a data quality team, like you have a software quality assurance teams in every software development project.
Right.
And
you also mentioned about advanced lineage. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, what do you think the current lineage doesn't really provide? I think a lot of getting the upstream information and downstream information is something that lineage provides by default.
Yes, so that is the primary information from the perspective of data quality. If you go beyond that, from the perspective of data quality, you just look at where the issue came from. So was this issue also detected in an upstream table, or which tables or dashboards could be affected? But there is something more about data lineage that goes beyond data quality, because if you want to make changes, then you need to know who are the owners of the downstream tables that will be affected by the changes. So this goes even far beyond data quality, because you are now actually not fixing data quality, you are causing new data quality issues if they are not informed that the table in the middle will be changed.
Yeah, and actually, one part that I think very important about lineage is actually being able to spot these issues even at the column level, because many times it's the specific value, not necessarily the whole table, missing the data, like I'm missing a ton of rows. It's a lot of this like value change, which is a very specific to a certain field. And when it's a field that is like model form, that it doesn't mean that all the other downstream table is affected. It generally is a partial pipeline that uses that column that needs to be paused. So I think having that granularity is quite important when lineage gets
it's
integrated.
Not easy to track. But that would be even better if you know that only this column was affected and it's not used in some other table.
Exactly, and I think it's important to have that granularity to make all the pain of triaging, fixing the issue to be minimized. This is like something that we see as a big uplift for our customers today. So awesome. It looks like we're almost out of time. Well, Piotr, thanks so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun, and I feel like we've got into like quite deep into different aspects of data quality. So thanks again for joining me today on InnerJoin, and I wish you a great weekend.
Yes, thank you for the invitation. That was a enlightening discussion about the various problems that should be solved. So let's see, maybe again.
All right, sounds good.